Hello everybody and welcome to All Hands on Tech Live. I'm Jeremy Morgan, I'm your host, Senior Developer Advocate here at Pluralsight, and I do this every Tuesday. So every Tuesday we jump on live stream and build stuff. Last few weeks we've been building a JavaScript game. So we're going to jump right into it here and we're going to build some games today. So, if you're not familiar with it, if this is the first time joining in on the stream, I'm going to go ahead and load up our game here that we've been working on the last couple weeks. It's pretty cool. It's using the Phaser framework. It's all built in JavaScript, pure JavaScript and HTML. And I'm going to do a quick tech check here. All right. We're good to go. Let's go ahead and fire up the game. Load up serve. And this is our game that we've been working on the last few weeks. So this is a 2D platformer. This is something sort of like Mario Brothers type of game that we've been working on. And it has a little ninja frog in it, but I decided the name Totally Awesome was pretty cool, so we're going to pretend like this thing's a toad. Now what we did last week was we did a lot of stuff with the tiling. We set up the tiling. You can see the tiles here. We're probably going to change that today. And we made our little toad move around here. We made it kind of realistic so that, so last week we did some stuff where if the toad was facing this way, it would stay facing that way, things like that, just little things. Looks like we still need to work on our jump. And we did some of the animation stuff with this. Another thing that we did last week was we figured out how to make it go across the screen like that. So if he goes off the screen, it's kind of like the old Mario Brothers, where if you go off one side, you land on the other. Pretty good stuff. So today we're going to make this into an actual game. Like we're going to actually do some fun stuff with it, and we're going to add some enemies. So I've got this Pixel Adventure Kit. That's where I've been getting these graphics from. So I haven't done any of these graphics. I did this background image, this blue gradient. Built that in Photoshop. As you can see here with the hole at the bottom of the black, I didn't make it quite long enough. But everything else has been from this pixel art game set. So I'm going to go into that pixel art game set. I'm going to find an enemy. I also have a custom enemy that my wife put together. And we're going to put that in there. And we're just going to put some enemies in here that are going to take out our little ninja toad here. And like I said, I think the jump needs a little bit of work, because I want 2 blocks of space in between here. So let's increase that jump a little bit. I'll drag this over here and we'll jump right into our game.js. Try to remember where jump is. Figure this out. So that was one of the things that we were trying to figure out last week, was making it fall through the hole and come back somewhere else. So that's probably something we will work on today. Here it is, player set velocity, 220, jump animation. So this is where we can kind of change our jump a little bit. Let's change it to 250. We'll refresh this. Now our jump is a little bit higher, and it's just high enough to get onto that second set of blocks, which is all I wanted. This is one of the things that's really, really cool about this Phaser library, is things are really super easy to just jump in and move like this. So I'm going to do a quick tech check, make sure we're up everywhere we're supposed to be up here. Looks like we are on YouTube, we're on Twitch. We've got a ton of viewers on Twitch right now. It's like 72 people watching, holy moly. And the chat is wide open. If anybody has questions, feel free to jump in the chat, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, whatever. Jump in the chat with your questions. I will attempt to answer them. If I can't answer them, then I'll just load up ChatGPT and we'll pretend like I know everything there is to know about Phaser. So anyway, let's look at what we need to do to build an enemy. So obviously we need to load in some images. Now when we did this, here, see if we can find it. We have our jump PNG, our run. There's our run. This is a really good sprite map. This is kind of an example of a sprite map that we use for running. And basically we say, load in the sprite map and play these animations while we're running. And so bobs, jumps up and down, all that kind of fun stuff. So in here, I'm going to go into my repos, go into Phaser. Pixel Adventure 2 is a pack, and I can post a link in the chat to that particular art pack. Pixel Adventure 2. Now this is pretty cool. You can get it for free or you can donate something. I donated something. Even though I'm not making money from this game, I do appreciate somebody taking their time to build out these graphics and offer them for free. The cool thing about the Pixel Adventure stuff, and a lot of these assets on here, there we go, sent that in the chat. The cool thing about these assets is if you decide to make a game and you make money off of it, it's totally legal. So with these kits, they give you everything you need, backgrounds, enemies, everything, all the graphics. You can download it for free, use it, build your free game, or if you happen to make some money later on, that's okay too. There's no royalties, there's no big expense. Pretty cool. Now, we're never going to make any money off of Totally Awesome, right? It's just for fun. We're just building this for educational purposes. But I still decided to donate because you should always donate to creators who put their time and effort into things. Like these graphics took forever to create, I guarantee it. You should always support creators whenever you can. So we'll minimize this. And for our enemies, I think I'm going to do like a bird. Here we go. Here's a blue bird, and as you can see here, oh, we've already got it opened up in Photoshop. This looks like it'd be pretty decent enemy, right? So let's go ahead and copy it in. Now these are 32 by 32, each of these. So that is something to remember. We'll go into our Totally Awesome, into our assets. We're going to dump this into our asset folder, and I think I'm going to rename this here. Rename. Bird flying, I think is a good one. And name this one bird hit. This is what happens when it's hit. So we might throw that animation in there. You know, why the heck not? So now we have bird flying and bird hit. Cool. Minimize that. I don't know what else assets we're going to put in here today or how many enemies we're going to put in. It's all going to depend on our time, right? So up here, here's where we created the platform layer. We created our player and our collider. We should probably keep all these things together, so we'll put colliders here because there is more than one. And here's where we should create our enemy. Create an enemy. And this is going to be our blue bird. Now in here, we do very similar to what we did somewhere up here. Oh, preload. We need to do our preload first. So in here, we'll put in enemy. And here we're going to load a sprite sheet, and we're going to do it the same way we did our player. We'll say this, load sprite sheet. Instead of dude, this is going to be bird. And then for our assets, we're going to say bird flying. And then we do the same thing that we did up here where we set our frame width 32, frame height 32. Bam, we're loading in that asset. So this is our enemy. We're just going to say blue bird so we know. Now we have that asset loaded in. Pretty easy stuff. Pretty cool. Then down here is where we're going to we're going to add our function. And we can do all of this stuff very similar to how we do our player, right? We can say bird, or actually we should name it enemy, I guess. Enemy, and if you look at the autocomplete here, that autocomplete is pretty good. So I don't know if we're going to use this yet. I'm gonna comment this. We just want to add that sprite at 200 by 400. So that should be approximately the middle of the screen. So add in our sprite. We do need an animation, so we can just copy an animation out of here. And we'll put in enemy animation. Now this one, for our key, I think we should say bird, let's see, bird jump or something, or bird fly, I guess. I don't even know if this bird's really gonna fly yet. We're gonna see if that's a thing that's gonna happen. So bird fly. Now frames, key here. I think this one, we'll call this one bird fly also. So, or we could just say key. Now I'm a little bit confused. How did we do this? We said anims play left true. Yeah. So for this key, we could just say bird fly. This key will also be bird fly. And we want to animate this one. Start 0, end 0. Let's see how many animation frames we have for this bird flying here. It looks like we have 9. So we could do like a 0 through 8 for that animation. That should make our bird fly. P1. Yeah, bird fly. What else do we need? We need to actually play that. Let me check here. This and play. Make sure I'm steering you in the right direction here. This physics add collider. We have not yet added a collider for this. We've got do jump. We've got bird fly. This direction facing right. We are going to get rid of this console log because that's going to fill up our console with player movement. Let's see where we're at now as far as there's our bird flying through the ground. So I do want to create a different spot for that bird to be generated from. So we'll go up here to, where is it? That's where we load the sprite sheet. Up here is where we drop the bird. We could say maybe 400 by 600. I'll just play with the numbers until I find something that looks right. Oh, that's definitely too low. So how about 0? Where does that end up? 0, I can kind of see it along the side here. So we know that we're like 800 by 600, I believe. 800 by 640. So we could put in 800 by 640 too. Like 800 wide, 0. Let's see where this puts the bird. That's kind of where I want it right there. So I'm going to do like 750 and 0. And I need some text. Hello, Accession 11. Is this vanilla on the front side, you're asking, or do you use a framework like Phaser or Play Canvas? We are using Phaser for this, so it is. This is all like Phaser framework stuff. It looks a little bit different because we started out with the tutorials, and we've veered off of those. And then I have some stuff that I need to do, and I might do that in this stream where we're going to move it into an actual class, which is the proper way to build a Phaser game once it grows to a certain size. And I need to send a text message here really quick. Okay, so 750, 0, let's see where that lands us. But yes, this is the Phaser JS framework we're using. It's very cool framework, very fun. Let's see if I can make this just a little bit bigger. Maybe not. So now, as you can see, the bird is falling through the platform, right? So it's being generated, but it's falling through the platform. So we need to add some colliders in there. Oh, an accession, this is your first time chatting, so welcome to the chat. Very cool. It's always cool to have first time folks on here. And here's where we're going to add a collider. So if y'all remember, a collider is basically collision detection, and it basically says, okay, we've got our player. Like in this case, we added these two colliders, and it says the player and ground layer, just add collider. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do any fancy physics or math or any of that wild stuff. Phaser takes care of that for you 100% with these colliders. So we just say, let's add a collider between the player and the ground layer so that when the player hits that ground layer, it cannot go through it. That's exactly what we need to do with the bird or the enemy. So let's create colliders, the exact same colliders for the enemies that we have for our player. And if you remember correctly, the very first time we did this, we did it the way the tutorial said to do it, the beginner's tutorial, and it did not work very well. So we ended up doing it the way other Phaser developers do it. There we go. Now we've got our bird sitting on top of the platform. So now the bird has to obey the same laws that our Ninja Toad has to obey, right? It's the very same thing where if it's on a platform, it collides with it. This ground is another layer, and we put a hole in here. Now it's gone. We have to restart it. I haven't decided whether we're going to make that hole a place where you die or a place where you come out somewhere randomly at the top. Haven't quite decided on that yet, but we will definitely look into it. So we've got our collider here, and we'll just put in enemy so we know we have an enemy collider. Cool. And we don't really see any animation with the bird yet, right? Because the bird isn't moving. So that's the next thing we need to do, is we need to make this bird animate. We can do that in update, which we have all kinds of stuff in here. So this is one of the reasons I want to organize this a little bit better. All right, cursor down. We've got all of this different player stuff, so we'll go down here. That was some of our debug code from last week. We had this console just full of stuff last week, and we probably will today too. But with the Phaser console, you can really see what's going on all over the place. Like there, I have jump animation. Every time I jump, it says jump animation, etc. Hello, CME code. Also a first-time chatter. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, you should definitely add this to your list. This is a lot of fun. This Phaser framework, I just downloaded it here because I wanted to package it and put it up on like itch.io and stuff like that. But you can literally create an HTML page on your computer. You can take it in through the CDN, and you could do this on like a Raspberry Pi, any kind of computer. It doesn't have to be a super fast computer, and you could just start building games. It's pretty awesome. If you go back through some of our past streams or our videos on YouTube, it'll show you exactly how we got to the point that we're at now with this, with our Totally Awesome game. And yeah, it's really fun framework to work with. I've really enjoyed working with this. And I don't say that about a lot of JavaScript frameworks. Those who know me, JavaScript is not my favorite language in the world. And yeah. And so another chatter here says, your theme sucks. All right. Well, thanks. I like it. I'm a fan. This is the Winter is Coming theme by John Papa. So if anybody likes this theme, that's how you can get it. If you agree with Alvy and you hate this theme, then don't worry about it. So we have our collider. We need to move this thing. All right, so down here, the very bottom of our update, which I think is where I'm at now, and say move the enemy. Help if I spin. Hot dog stand is the best theme ever, huh? I'd be willing to try hot dog stand. I'll try it right now just for the heck of it. Let's go in here to extensions. Is it in extensions? I'm assuming. This is probably trolling. It's probably going to be, yeah, burn out your eyeballs in 15 seconds. Okay, we're doing it. Look at that color theme right there. Holy moly. How did I know this was a troll? Somehow I knew this was a troll. You got me. Set color theme to hot dog stand. No, I think I'm going to stick with Winter is Coming, but yeah, that's horrendous. Why would anyone do this? Yeah, the name gave it up. All right, so we're going back to Winter is Coming, but that's pretty funny. I'm going to send that to some people and troll them a little bit. That's pretty funny. Welcome, Brolenia, I think. That's how you say it. So we have a lot of people on Twitch right now, which is awesome. So that's a good reminder to follow us here. We are always streaming on Twitch. We sometimes stream on LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. But we're always on Twitch. And for our Twitch people, we'll give you some stickers. See those cool laptop stickers? I think there's even a couple more stickers that have been added to this collection, but a lot of these were designed by David Neal, who does our stream on Thursday, and I will give you these stickers. Follow us on Twitch, send us a whisper, and I'll send you some stickers, even if you're international. I've sent stickers so far to Europe, Finland, I believe. So yeah, just follow me and give me a whisper, and I will send out those stickers. In the update, my ADD is getting away from me again. This enemy, let's move this enemy a little bit. This enemy X, let's say 2 for now. 2 should be fast enough. This should move our enemy across the screen, and it does not. Undefined setting X. Super weird. Okay, let's go up to our enemy again. Yes, I don't know, not via courier, via post mostly. And Alvy is asking, how hard is making games in JavaScript compared to using a game engine for 2D games? It depends on the 2D engine. I have not worked with, so traditionally I'm like a software engineer, programmer, but I'm not a game developer. I just got into this. The only thing I have it to compare with is Unity. And Unity is also very awesome, but quite a bit more complicated. So I would say this is far less complicated than Unity and far less powerful at the same time. So I'm going to have to make this enemy. Because in our update function has no idea. of the scope. You know, this enemy is within a local scope, so it has no idea what I mean when I say enemy move. And this is one of the things that I would like to fix today. So now this enemy should move. It should stop breaking. There we go. And there's our enemy there, which for some reason now is on the other side of the screen. So no idea why. We'll figure it out, right? We will figure this out. Let's just make it -2. We'll see if we can get it to scoot to the side, because it's supposed to start up over here, right? So we could say 200. Nope, we do have to do it this way. Minus equals. That's the problem. There we go. And here comes our bird flying towards us. Is game dev possible in React? Library support there. I don't know, actually. I know that you can implement phaser in React for sure. So you can take this phaser engine, you can put it into pretty much any front-end framework. Now, how exactly it integrates with everything in React, I honestly have no idea because I've never done it. However, that is something that I could research and look into, because that is kind of interesting. I could see a lot of the benefits like state, database connections, things like that, would likely be far easier if you integrated this into something like React or Angular or Vue. And I know that you can put phaser into that. I don't know much more than that, unfortunately. And oops, make sure my chat's loaded up here. All right, and a ton of people on Twitch today, so thank you everybody for following us and joining us for our game adventure. So we moved the enemy here, right? I want to make this enemy like bounce and stuff later, but for now, I think it's good that the enemy just comes towards you. We need to play the animation, and then I have to run from the enemy, right? And now the enemy is gone, which is fine. So we've added our colliders there. We need to, let's see, we've added a collider for the enemy. So let's load this up again. And we can definitely see that the collider is working because the enemy hits all the platforms, doesn't fall through like it was doing before. And Accession says, I would say to take consideration of doing a game in Shadow DOM performance issues. I could see that. I could definitely see that. Oh, and somebody, CME Code asked a question earlier, can you use it with TypeScript? Yes, you can. You absolutely can use phaser with TypeScript, which is not quite what we're doing today, but you can do it. Now remember last week, for those of you who were here last week, we did this little enemy thing, right? And we still have our console log, players off screen, so that our player could leave the screen and enter the screen on the other side. Well, we need to do that with our enemy, our bird, because our bird is going and disappearing. So I found a little bit better way to do this. Last week I put in this long big pile of code, and we can remove that console log just to kind of clear up our console a little bit. But I found a better way to do this. And I will just copy this notes that I have, where we basically say this enemy X is, let's see, this enemy width divided by 2. Actually, I'll just copy this in here so you don't have to watch me type it. This actually works with less code than our little thing above. So we're using sysconfig game width. Basically, we're saying if enemy X is less than enemy width divided by 2, which means it's gone off screen, so that as soon as it's halfway off that screen, then this triggers. Like as soon as the enemy is halfway, basically. Then we take the config width plus the enemy width, divide it by 2, drop it back in there. I was playing with another game and this worked pretty well. So we're going to see if it works today. Hi, where are you going? Oh, going back over here. So now we have an enemy that doesn't go away. Because, I mean, what fun would that be if you see the enemy coming, you just kind of jump over them and then they disappear off the screen? No, we want them to come back. We want them to come back in unexpected times also. Now here's something interesting. We need to add some collision detection for this between the enemy and the player, which is not quite the same as the platforms and stuff. Because right now we have an enemy that can do nothing. Like this doesn't really matter very much. Jump, jump, jump. Doot, doot, doot. Cool, right? So let's look at that. And let's put some bounce on this enemy too, because it's a bird. We want it to be a bird that flies, but we also want it to be on the ground so it's near our player, trying to kill our player, ideally. So here we could just say this enemy Y. And then that should do an X and a Y movement each time, and that should give it a little bit of bounce, kind of like our player has. Let's see. There we go. So it kind of almost looks like it's flying, right? And then we just need to attach that animation to it, and then it will actually look like a flying bird. Now, if you remember up here, we have player, anims play, jump true. Let's do bird fly. I think that's what I named it, bird fly, something like that. We'll find out if it works. Cannot. So let's go up to our animations, bird underscore fly. Generate frame number, start 0, start 8. Having those two keys the same might be my issue here. So I just might name this key bird. We'll play the bird animation. Nope. Reading duration. That is interesting. So, oh, it's player animation. We need enemy animation. That's right. And we need this enemy animations play. Still doesn't work. First tick, cannot read properties of undefined. Maybe it is enemy anims. Whoops, wrong browser window. All right. So it needs to play bird. We'll go up here to bird and see what the heck is wrong with bird. This anims generate frame numbers, start 0, end at 8. That's how many frames we have in our animation. So it should be totally gold, right? Bird fly, which is our key up here, right? Enemy blue bird, bird flying. Oh no, that's where we did wrong. Got my keys all mixed up. This needs to be bird. This needs to be bird fly. So basically I need to call this key for this animation. Then it needs to load bird starting at 0, ending at 8. So I just had my keys all mixed up. I'm gonna call it streamer brain. There we go. Now we've got some animation on that bird. It looks like an actual bird flying now. It flaps its wings and everything. Dun, 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 dun. However, it's not yet killing the frog. We've actually made a lot of progress here in this hour, like quite a bit. But as you can see, it just flies right through it. Doesn't even care. So we need to fix that, right? And I'm going to do a quick tech check here really quick just to make sure that we're going where we're supposed to be going. And it looks like I'm probably, probably streaming to my personal Facebook stream, it looks like. Hello, Facebook friends. Whatever, doesn't matter. I'm just trying to make sure. Yep, we're live on LinkedIn, 37 people. All right, cool. Very cool. So jumping back in. Where did my bird go? I wasn't even paying attention. A little enemy. I'm assuming that eventually, depending on the distance of this hop, eventually it falls down into this hole. I'm pointing at a hole and you can't see what I'm pointing at, but there we go. Yeah, it falls into the hole. Oh, and then he misses that hole, but maybe on the next run, if the jump is just a little off, it should fall right in there. There we go. Pew! He's gone. So that's at least a way to get rid of enemies. If you want to be really passive, you could just kind of dodge them and let them fall down on the hole by themselves. But we need collision detection. That's what we need. So we need to set those collider bounds on. So up here when we created our player, up in create, this thing is getting so huge now. Our player is not colliding on world bounds. That's right. So we don't want the bird to either. So I was going to make it collide on world bounds, but if we do that, we'll show just what collide world bounds means. If we go down here to our enemy, this enemy, if we set collide world bounds to true, then the enemy will not be able to leave the world. And apparently it will screw up the game. Enemy is not defined. Okay, this enemy. There we go. So we'll do this again. Now you can see that gravity does not apply to this bird, and it's stuck within the bounds. So the bird cannot leave this world, but we want it to be able to leave so that it can go to the other side the way we do. So we'll just say, doo-doo. We're going to leave this bird how it is. That way gravity applies to it, and then it has the same rules that our player does where you can jump through and go through. Yeah, cool. And let's see. We need to add a collider in here between the player and the enemy. We're probably going to have an issue. I can already see what our issue is going to be. So we need to add a collider between this enemy and player. Let's see if it obeys this collider. Nope, he's still... Oh, yeah, we got a collider. Perfect. So the collider is working. It's hard to tell, but the bird can't exactly go through. And I can push the bird, but the bird can't go through me anymore. So now we do have a collision. And of course, for that collision, we want that to kill our player. It sounds so violent when I say it that way, but that's the gaming world. Nothing you can do. So we could do that by doing a game over function. Let's go all the way to the bottom of our enormous JavaScript file. And actually, I'm going to blast some of these comments out of here because the comments are making this file larger. And this was mostly from last week when we were doing debugging. So let's clean this up a little bit. Actually, that enemy set bounce, I wonder if that set bounce will do what we did earlier. So down here where we made him jump, I wonder if set bounce will just do that for us. So I forgot about that function. Nope. Enemy is not defined again. I keep doing that. But that's all right, because we're going to add this in front of everything here in a minute. We're going to pull this into a class and a scene and do things kind of the right way, I guess you would say. So we took this tutorial a couple weeks ago on this, and we did it. The tutorial's designed to just to get you started, to get you going. If you go to that initial phaser tutorial, and we'll bring it up really quick. Phaser IO. It's a great tutorial. It's fantastic. Where's the first one? I think I'll just have to go to Phaser IO. So if you load up Phaser IO and you click on Learn, making your first game in English, this will tell you how to make your first game. It's very thorough. It's very good. However, it does not tell you to pull everything into a class. It has a kind of a rudimentary collision detection system that's based on pixels of the images you put in there rather than objects. And things like that, they're more advanced, but it gives you a very basic, like if you take this tutorial, and I'll drop it in the chat, you will build a phaser game and figure it out. But after a while of developing these things, you'll start to see that there are better ways to do things in phaser, especially when they're getting bigger. And we're going to implement some of those best practices. So yeah, our collider works. We're not able to run through each other anymore. The set bounce thing seems to work, right? Or did it not work? No, it doesn't work. It just gives it a bounce when it lands on a platform. So we'll leave that in there, but we're going to we'll add this back in so that our bird is kind of hopping. That's perfect. And with that set bounce, there's a little bit more bounce with that bird. I'm going to set this a little bit lower. I think I can pass a float into this. We will find out. Yes, we can pass a float into it. So that way it doesn't quite jump as high, because we want it to, yeah, just like that. We want it to jump between those two platforms. Perfecto. All right. Now we need to kill the player. So down here, we're going to do a game over function. We're going to say function, game over. It helps to spell things properly in programming. Function game over. This, what was it? This physics pause. So this will pause everything, and we're going to set the player tint, and I have this in my notes. Set the player tint. We're going to set an idle animation. So this should stop the whole game. And we'll go up to our collider. And we'll call the game over function. Now, when this enemy hits us, it's game over. I don't see the tint. Oh, we've got cannot read properties of undefined reading pause. So I'm not sure why that's happening. This physics pause. Interesting. that it does not recognize that. Let's see if it'll tint it and freeze it. Nope. Set tint. Also not reading it. But that's okay. That kind of brings me to what we want to do today, and it looks like I have the time to do it, which is awesome. We're going to split this off into a class and make it its own scene so that we can change scenes. This is something that we have to do with this game anyway. Like, we have no choice but to put this into scenes, because we're going to want a starting scene where you're like, you know, enter whatever, press enter to start that scene, and then we want like a game over scene when you die. So we have to do this one way or another. And thank you to the folks that are following us today. It looks like we've got a bunch of new followers here on Twitch, which is always cool. Super stoked about that. We love doing this. We do it all the time. Heck yeah. Thank you everybody for following us. Not only do I do games on here, every Tuesday I do a stream, and this year I'm doing this JavaScript game. David Neal is here on Thursdays for All Hands on Tech Live on Thursdays. David Neal knows even more than I do about building JavaScript games, and he's building a JavaScript trivia game, which is pretty cool, that you are going to want to check out. So, very awesome. We're having some issues here with pausing the physics. It doesn't like to do that. Let's see if it will at least play the idle animation. But like I said, I want to refactor this thing today anyway. So once I refactor it, we should run into less of these type error problems. Function game over. Initialize collider sprite versus sprite. So yeah, for some reason it's not keeping the scope. Maybe if I do, let's see, go up here. This dot game over? I think part of it is this player scope also. Like, one way or another, we're having a scope issue that I can fix. Now it's not calling the function at all. So that wasn't the answer. What if I say this player for everything? We'll do that anyway. So let's remove all these comments, stuff like this. Let's get this code really slimmed up, and we're going to create a game scene. We're going to do this a little bit different, but basically we're going to pull this into a class, and then we're going to put this in front of everything. Now, why does that matter? Because that's going to resolve a lot of these scoping issues that we're running into right now. I mean, ideally, hopefully. Let's see. Am I even streaming on YouTube today? I am streaming on YouTube. I'm just kind of surprised because usually there's a ton of chat that comes from YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff. And thank you everybody who's coming on to Twitch and watching us right now. That is very cool. So what can we do here? We can take this and move it into its own entire stream. And I'll show you how to do that. So right now we've done everything in game.js. It's getting huge. It's getting a little bit hard to manage, I would say. So let's create a new scene. I'm going to call this, I don't know, main scene. What should I call this? Probably game scene. Game scene.js. Sounds good enough. So that's when we're playing the game. This will be like the first level of the game. So we're going to say class, game scene, and I have a feeling, there we go, autocorrect. I keep calling it autocorrect, but basically what this is Tab 9 Pro, if you've never heard of Tab 9. I'm not being paid to promote this, by the way, at all. But I am using Tab 9, which is an AI assistant for software developers. I freaking love Tab 9. Tab 9 does autocomplete, sort of like GitHub Copilot. Actually, GitHub Copilot's probably the main competitor, which is also an awesome product. But Tab 9 basically just autocompletes stuff for you, and it learns based on your coding, which is cool. So it, of course, is trained on huge code data sets, so it'll spit out code like this. But also, it watches how you code, and I've noticed that there's certain things that I do that are a little unique that Tab 9 has figured out and will autocomplete that stuff for me. So, very cool. And Tab 9 says, class game scene extends phaser scene. It's going to give me a constructor, so it's suggesting a constructor, which is something that we need for this. Key of game scene. And then it's going to throw in preload. So if you've been watching, you know that we have 3 separate functions that need to be thrown in. We need preload, we need create, and then we're going to get update. And there's update. For those of you who are new to the scene, and there's render, which I don't know what render is, so if you're new to this stream, we've been talking about this a lot, that this is pretty much your game, right? So preload is the stuff that we load up the very first time the game starts. As soon as we start a new game, we do create. That's also run one time, creates things. So basically things are loaded up before the game starts. Then when the game starts, create is called, starts creating all the things, and then update is called once per frame. So if you're running at 30 frames a second, update gets called 30 times in 1 second. So this is where you put the stuff that you want to update all the time. And so we already have that with our game.js here. So we're going to go up here. Game.js is going to change a lot because basically we're going to put in this config and pass it into a new game, and then everything else is going to have to go in that class. So we'll take all of our preload code here, cut it, because that's going to go into this game scenes preload section. And whoops. Take this stuff, put forward like this, and this is now our preload for the new way of doing it. And then we'll do the same thing with create. I did notice there's a couple of things like direction facing right. We're probably going to have to change that a little bit. That's perfectly fine. So we'll take all of our create code all the way down to here. Say cut. Save that. Now we're in here. Create. And I don't know why I forgot this. Is it format? Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought, but didn't seem like, yeah, it doesn't work. The source to format code. Shift Alt F. That does it. Okay. Been on a Mac too long, I guess. Keys are a little different. So we have our preload. We have our create. Now we need to put in our update. Cut that. Put it into our update. Now we have ourselves a class. A class that is not going to work the first time we run it. So now in our config, we can take these out. We can take out all of these, even the game over, because we'll put game over in there in the new one. And then we need to do scene, game scene. Instead of all of these are those functions that we were just talking about. Preload, create, and update, and delete. We were assigning those to functions within this file. We're not doing that anymore. Now we just have to say scene, game scene. That's it. So let me check my new notes here. Scene, game scene. Did I put that in wrong? Possibly. There we go. Game scene. Now if we run it now, it's going to be black. Game scene is not defined because we need to load that into our index.html. So before game.js, we're going to put in game scene.js. This should get us a little closer. There we go. And as you can see, we are sadly not working. And this is just because we have to add this in front of a bunch of stuff to scope everything in. We got to scope in our player. We have to scope in all kinds of stuff. And check something really quick based on a message. Holy moly. Okay. That would explain it. So this is broken right now, but it's just because player's not defined, enemy's not defined. We just need to go in and put this in front of everything on our stuff. So we have this, this. All of those are already thised. They're already put into scope. Our maps, our tile set, instead of constants, we'll just do this dot for all of these. And trust me, this will make our life easier in the long run. This is one of those things that we do now that just makes our life easier later, right? Player is now this player. And I could do a find and replace, but I think that might introduce more problems than taking a few minutes to do this. Now this is how you'll see more of the complex phaser games set up. We should be closer now. Oh, we're far. Map is not defined, which is fine. We'll go into map. This cursors. And we may refactor this again because that's what we do, right? Software developers, we just refactor things all the time. So there's our create. Let's go into our update. This in motion, this camera. I forgot about all these. Once we're done doing all this, things will be a little easier. Switching screens and whatnot. And that's helpful for doing levels too. This basically I should have named this level 1 because this is going to be the first level. Now pretty much what I'm doing here is just making everything a part of that main JavaScript object. Just every single thing is a part of our object. We actually don't need that console log anymore, I don't think. All right. Now everything is scoped out the way it should be. And our game is working again. Love it when that happens. So we have our collision detection here. However, it's not doing anything. So we're at the end of the hour. However, I'm going to keep going because I had a certain set of goals for this hour that we're going to achieve. One of these days I should do a stream. That hot dog stand thing that you posted was pretty funny. One of these days I should do a stream where I attempt to do real programming and software work with that theme and see how much it drives me crazy. So where did our enemy go? Did he fall down the hole again? So this is pretty cool. Now we need to create another scene. And this scene is going to be our game over scene. Actually, we'll just call it game over scene. And this is what's going to happen when it's game over time. So game over scene, JS. We're going to say class, game over scene, extends phaser scene. We'll put the constructor in there. And then we have a create. We also, in this scene, we also have create, preload, and update. However, we really only need create for this because we're just going to create a screen that says, you're done. And that's pretty much it. We'll just put do stuff. And for now, we'll put in console log, game over. That way we know that we're calling it, we're using it, etc. Let's go back into here. We can close index.html. We're not going to use this. One of the things we have to do here is we have game scene. We now need to say add in game over scene as a part of that. So now we're loading in two scenes. Let's make sure that doesn't break anything. Nope, game over scene is not defined. That's exactly why we checked it. And since I just closed this, of course I need to open it again. GameOverScene.js. This should fix it. So we do have to load that in. Game scene has already been declared. Did I? Yeah, there, game scene, game over. Ah, there we go. That's why. I relied too heavily on autocomplete. Game over scene is not defined. Well, now it should be defined. So in index.html, I have to load JS gameoverscene.js. Not a huge deal. Game over scene, game over scene. Game scene has already been declared. So, where did I, in game over scene, where key game over scene, class game over scene. Again, relied a little too heavily on the autocomplete. Now we're working again. Ta-da! Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Okay. Cool. So we need to end the game when that happens. I'm gonna check something here really quick. Okay, awesome. Awesome, awesome. We need to end the game when we hit this character. And then we're going to add in another enemy after this. We're going to add in the one that my wife drew on my iPad. And see if we can put multiple enemies in there. We'll have to do some things to that image. So game over scene, etc. Okay. Let's go back into game scene. Let's say update. Here is where we want to put in the game over scene. So I think what we do is, I think we can just call the scene from this. So let's go back to our collider. If I remember where I put that. There we go. We're calling this game over. So we should have a game over function in here. I did not add it in, but we can add it in really quick and say game over. And autocomplete says this scene start game over. So this should work. Like as soon as that collision happens, it should call that scene. Nope. Nope. I guess when it lands on top of me, it's not really a collision. It looks like. So I'll just try to run into the side of him. Come on, pal. Oh, the collision is happening, but game over is not being called. So before we call the scene, let's make sure we're calling this. We'll say console log game over is called. And I could have the case wrong on that. Yeah, I totally do. Totally do. So let's fix that. Case sensitive. JavaScript is case sensitive now. Who'da thunk? Okay, now we go here. This should say bink, game over. Yep, game over is called. Perfect. Drives me nuts watching the obvious issue. That's one of the downsides of streaming, I guess, is watching somebody fumble with something that you know the answer to. Feel free to shout it out, though. It's not a problem. Like I said, I'm not a professional game developer. I'm still learning a lot of this. Cannot read properties of undefined. Reading start in function game over. Okay. So this scene start, game over. I see, it's not calling the scene properly. So it should be calling game over scene, which is this one right here. Let's find out why it's not. And one thing that's kind of cool you can do in your config is set it to debug. No hate intended, says Friat. It's fine. I knew there was no hate intended. I was just saying that feel free to shout out the answer if I'm struggling with it. There we go. So debug mode, you might notice here that there's now boxes around our characters. There's little directionals coming out there. And it gives you a little bit more information sometimes, most of the time. So we're going to leave the debug mode on here, but it says it cannot read properties of undefined. And it's trying to read start at function game over. That is right here. This is what we've just created, so I need to figure out why this is undefined. Maybe it's not this scene that I'm supposed to call. Maybe it's this scene. And Austin Lopez says, will there be a recording? Yes, there is a recording. If you missed the first part, I will send you a link. We record all of these on YouTube. There's the YouTube link. If you missed the beginning of the scene. I guess. I don't know. My brain's, I'm working with scenes here, so my brain's like, if you miss the beginning of this recording. So this scene, start, game over scene. Let's see if it's just a casing issue. Nope. It still cannot read start. Let's check out our autocomplete here. See if I'm just calling this improperly. There's a start. Okay, and Austin Lopez is asking a really good question here. Thanks, Austin. I'll share it with everyone. You mostly want to see, Austin says, I mostly want to see what dependencies you need to get this all running. And it's really cool because you don't need a whole heck of a lot. We're using phaser.io, which is JavaScript framework. So you can go to phaser.io, download it. You can either like get it off of GitHub, which is what I did, or you can use a CDN, create an index HTML file on your computer, and then serve it somehow. And that's really it for dependencies. You can do it in Windows, Mac, or Linux, FreeBSD, whatever. You could probably do it on an iPad. I haven't tried that yet, but and so the dependencies are really, really light, especially if you use a CDN. Then you're just creating an HTML file. You could do that on an old 486 or something. So not a lot of dependencies here. I happen to be using Node to serve everything up. So I just do, I have npm. If you do npm I serve -g, it'll put a server on your computer. So you just type in serve in whatever folder you want to serve, and it serves. That's what I'm using here. You can see down in the terminal, that's just serve, and it's this basic HTML web server so that it can be run locally. But no other dependencies. And this can be hosted in static hosting, all kinds of cool stuff. So we're still getting this error. Cannot read properties of undefined reading game scene. At function game over, it just, for some reason, I'm not typing this in right. So let's see. I'm just going to Google this. This is what I've used on other games that I've been working on. So I've been tinkering a lot, kind of trying to learn ahead, you know, and I've been tinkering a lot, and this has worked for me in the past. However, it does not seem to be working in this case. So this scene start, phaser, starting a scene, stopping, let's see what this tutorial says. Starting a scene, stopping all other running scenes from the global game object, which is exactly what I'm trying to do, right? I'm saying this scene, maybe it is a game object that I need to use. You really shouldn't use game.scene at all in Phaser 3. It's cool. I'm using this .scene, but scene operations should go via the scene plugin, which is accessible as this .scene. Oops, that is what I'm doing, and that's not working. With any scene, as in this scene start, will stop the current scene, then start the given one in order at the next game step. Whereas game scene start just blasts on through with no care to the game step or what's calling it. There's no way to stop all running scenes, however. But then unless you have started multiple scenes via launch, there won't actually be any other running scenes. Interesting. So Friyat says, stab in the dark. I'm not familiar with Phaser. Maybe you need to add it to the scene injection map. This property will only be available if defined in the scene injection map. Let's take a look at that, because I'm not familiar with it. I see what you're saying. Property only be available if defined in the name Phaser scene. this dot scene. So we add this all the way at the top. If defined in the scene. Interesting. So I don't know what that means by the scene injection map. I have no idea what that is. I'll be honest. So that be in here. Or would I be loading it in preload? I'm not really sure. So is this somebody's scene? Scene.js renderer is a new property. Require. It looks like this is in an initialize method where it initializes it. And that one looks more like TypeScript than anything else. But maybe in preload. Still doing game scene. So yeah, that is a little confusing. We know this is wrong, and this is the way that others say to do it. Properties of undefined. I'm just going to dump this thing in here and see what it looks like. And it's undefined, of course. Let's see. Undefined. So console log, this scene is undefined. What about this game scene? Is that undefined? Oops. There we go. It is also undefined. Nink. Scene is not defined. So that's what I need to do, is figure out how to get that scene in my game over function. And I think I could just call this here, but I don't want to call it in the function. Like, I want to make my own function. But I could probably take this here, go up to our collider. Instead of this game over, we could say, just call it directly and see if the scene's available up here. This is just a little quick test here. Dink. Yep, that worked. So it's not being passed in there. So we're able to get this to go if I just put an anonymous function in there. Then we get this game over screen, which of course is just black. So basically this is available in these functions, but you're right, Austin, it's not being passed into the game through scope for some reason. And maybe I need to, there is a game over function. Let me Google this really quick. A specific game over function in Phaser. And I need to find out what exactly that function is named. I can find it here. And I do think it's a built-in physics. Let's see. For remote. Interesting. I do not see it. I could have sworn there was a specific game over function though. But when calling this game over function, it is not grabbing the scope like it should. Game scene, game over scene. Let's see if that's the only autocomplete that comes up. Update, do stuff, get score. I thought there was a specific game over. Update. I'm going to search for that again, because I'm pretty sure there was something a bit like what I'm looking for. Phaser 3. How to start a game over screen, which is exactly what we're trying to do today, right? Right button, full button, camera on, start. This scene start, game over. Which is exactly what we're doing right now, right? We're just calling this game over screen directly, and maybe that's how we're going to have to do it for now. Create a loading screen. Go down through here, function preload, create. We know those are built in functions. Create. This load on. Not what we're looking for. There are progress bars. All right. Well, we're just gonna call it this way for now. I'll figure out the scope thing later. I think it's just easier to do that because we are calling our game over scene here. So if we refresh this, we'll let the bird hit us. Dink. We can see right here in our console, game over is called. So just by using an anonymous function, we can call it. It's not what I wanted to do, but it works. That's all that counts. So we will load some text here. Do const game over text. Oh, look at that. Not just good, it's good enough. Pretty much. Pretty much good enough. So this add text, game with that, I think that'll work. We'll say game config width -2. Look at my, let's see. Drop in some code here. 400 by 300, game over, font size 32, color, etc. We're just, in here, we're just putting in some text. So we're basically creating a string variable named game over text. We're doing this add text at 400 by 300 that says game over, font size, color, etc. And then we set the origin. Should be right in the middle of the screen. So dink, 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 dink. Boom, game over. Yay! All right. We have a game over screen. So that's essentially your player dying. And I'm gonna check here. Just quick tech check, see if we're still streaming everywhere. It looks like we still are. So that's good. We went over the hour again, which I do that. So if you're a regular follower of our stream, you know that I plan on doing this for an hour. And if I don't have a meeting in the hour after and I'm having fun, or people in the chat are having fun and we got more things to do, then we will just keep going. That's what we're doing today. It's generally an hour-long stream, but let's see if this is like style, like a CSS, or how this works, because I actually don't know. We got font size, color. What different options do we have for this game over text? Font weight, looks like. That's what I was looking for. Font, we have font size, face. Where did that font face? Font weight bold. Is that going to work? Probably not. Doesn't look like that's a property. Oh, maybe it is. Let's see if it makes it bold. We're going to drop another enemy in here. It doesn't look like it makes it bold. But we got a game over screen. So we got a game over screen. That's pretty cool. GameOverScene.js. So we've done a lot today. Like, we've added an enemy, which is what we wanted to do. We pulled all this into its own scene. We've created a game over scene. We've shoved it over there. We didn't do it exactly the way I wanted it to. But now I just want to add another enemy, right? So I'll go in here, open this up. Assets is already open. Bluebird. Something here. Phaser folder. Oh, there it is. Original. So this is the bird that my wife drew on the iPad. So I want to take this in. You know, I've been using this art kit, right? I'm going to call this Mad Bird. That's what it's named, Mad Bird. We've been using this art kit this whole time, but why not put in some original stuff, right? I'm not a super great artist. My wife's a far better artist than I am, but I'm practicing with my iPad, you know, and kind of goofing around. But here we have a mad bird. Pretty cool, right? So what we can do is we can create something similar to this for an animation. We can give this an animation and throw it in there, and then we'll have that enemy in our repertoire of enemies. So we're going to use a little bit of the pixel pack, and we're going to use a little bit of original stuff. So let's take this canvas size. I want this to be an animation. The first thing I guess I need to do is it needs to be 32 by 32 like our other ones. So for image size, let's create something to crop. Let's see, actually, yeah, we'll give it that space. So we'll just crop the whole image. We'll say image size. Want this to be 32 by 32. Okay, much less definition in our character. This is a small bird, but we're going to make it powerful because it's also going to kick off a game over. Let's expand our canvas. Take our canvas size, 32 by 320. Let's put a bunch of frames in here. And basically, we've, if you haven't been on our stream before, we did talk about sprites a little bit and how the frames work. This is what we're going to do is we're just going to create one of these sprite sheets with this mad bird. One thing I'm thinking that might make my life a little bit easier is if I create a new 32 by 32. create a new one here. Fill it with black. What I'm going to do is create some kind of little guideline for our frames, basically. Delete. Whoops. I guess I need to duplicate the layer. So this just turned into a Photoshop stream, right? We're going to do some Photoshop. Background. Basically delete that. Yes. There we go. Now we have a little border here to work with. This is what I want to attempt to place over this so that we know kind of where the frames are. And I didn't even have my, there we go. Now I've got this open. So let's create a new layer and see how we have the little frames there. Huh? Pretty good stuff. And I'm just going to create these so that I know roughly where the bird should be placed in our animation. And then of course we can just turn this layer off when we're done and we're ready to rock. We'll turn these layers off. And this, by doing this, we make our own enemy from scratch. Totally original. You will not find this enemy in any other game. So if you're watching along, this requires Photoshop. You could use GIMP also. I have not tried to use the GIMP for this. But how did I, there we go. I got so mixed up. But this looks like all of our frames. And I did that wrong, but that's okay. It's easy to fix. Looks like I need to actually put these up against each other. Like this. Take the next one. Like this. And yeah, these are just guidelines that I'm putting in so that I can see the frames clearly, and then I'll know roughly where to place my enemy. Okay, there's all of our frames. There's a million of them. So we're just going to merge these puppies. Merge layers. Make sure I don't merge too much because this is our bird, right? Nope, that's not our bird. That's our first layer. Our bird is layer 1. Okay. Layer 2, I have no idea what that is. I think layer 2 can go. I'll merge all these. Merge layers, and I'll just call this grid. So now I have a grid to look at here. And I need to create a new base layer here. Yeah. Cancel base layer. And then this layer is going to be the first bird. So we got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 0 through 9 here. And actually, I don't think I need this much animation, but in order to make it even, I'm going to make, we'll cut this down a little bit. So we're going to crop width and height resolution. Instead of 320, it's going to be 300. We'll just go right here. I hope I'm in the middle of that. Let's find out. Yep. There we go. That way I have an odd number of frames, and I'll show you why I'm thinking of doing that. Is I want to put the bird right here at the very top of the frame. I'm going to paste the next bird. It's going to be a little bit lower. The next one is going to be a little bit lower. Like probably like that, maybe. And then I can just kind of adjust this animation how I see fit. This is where I want it to end up. So I can take these like this. I think I'm going to make his eyes light up, maybe. But yeah, that'll do just for just kind of a basic animation. So if you're following along, this is how you do this stuff. This is how you make these things as you see them. So this looks like it'll be a pretty smooth animation. Of course, this just kind of makes it look like it jumps, and we can make it jump. So maybe we should do something a little bit different. But for now, I think we'll just do it like this. So now we have all these different birds. We can turn off the grid. We can export this as a PNG. We can go, that's going to my blog stuff. We need to go to phaser. Totally awesome. Source. Assets. And we're going to name this one Madbird PNG. Save. Yes, it exists. Now it's going to be this one. So this is Madbird PNG. These are all the different frames. We're just going to make it jump up and down for now. We probably will change that animation a little bit, and we'll make things look a little different. So we'll go all the way back up here to loading the sprite sheet. Another enemy here, and we're going to say this load sprite sheet. This one's going to be Madbird. And for this, we'll do the same that we've done with the other ones. We can just autocomplete that. Instead of enemy flying or bird flying, it's just going to be Madbird. That PNG, I'm not sure why that was capitalized, but actually I guess I could fix it. Let's be consistent. Madbird PNG, Madbird PNG. Okay, now we've got our Madbird. We need to go in here, create an enemy, Bluebird. And we're just going to copy paste this. Say, create another enemy. This enemy is going to be this Madbird. We'll set the bounce with that one also. And then since we named it up here, we named it Madbird, we're just going to name this one Madbird so that we can reference that sprite sheet as an index. So we're adding a sprite. We're indexing that Madbird. We should be able to add it in just like we add in all of our other enemies, which is it somewhere in here. We're going to have to do an animation for it, of course. But this adds in 7. This is going to create it at the same spot. We'll add this one at like 400. Let's see if our Madbird, we haven't been back to the game for a while to see if anything's broke. There's our Madbird. And our mad bird just flies down through there. Okay. Well, we know what the problem is there. Let's take this debug mode off because it does look a little distracting. Now we need to add colliders. So the same thing. We added another enemy. Now we need to add colliders. Super easy. This enemy, this physics add. We're going to say mad bird for this one. Now the mad bird should also have to obey the platforms, and it does. So that's perfect. So how can we do the... Oh, I got killed pretty quick there, didn't I? Holy moly. So many viewers on Twitch today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Twitch. So there's our mad bird. We can make the mad bird kind of fly around randomly. I don't know. We do this in the update. So we're just going to copy all of this stuff, except we need to add our own animation. We're going to name this mad bird fly because we're super creative like that. Oops, I keep forgetting my format. Oh, well. This one's going to be mad bird fly, and it's going to use the same frames as the last one. But we're just naming this one mad bird fly. So let's see, move the enemy. Did we already copy this? No, we didn't. So we're going to copy all of this code. And this is something that we can abstract into functions. We're going to do that next week. I think we're going to pull some of this stuff out into functions and kind of clean it up so that we're not repeating ourselves so much. I believe we called it mad bird. Yeah, this mad bird. Because, yeah, we're repeating ourselves a ton in here. So we can take and kind of refactor this, clean it up, abstract it, especially if we have enemies that have similar characteristics. We can kind of, maybe we'll make a class and then we'll extend off of that. So mad bird, this should make the mad bird do the same stuff that the other bird does. Oh, and it plays the wrong animation. Because I copied and pasted that animation and I did not change this to mad bird. So it was loading up that other sprite sheet. There we go. Now this bird kind of, yeah. We need to make it flop wings a little bit different. I think this bird should be kind of like a sliding bird or something. I don't know. Let's fix that animation. That's bugging me. I'm going to make this thing look like it's flopping its wings. So in our other flying one, you can see the bird actually stays in the same spot, but it just changes a little bit. So we could do that here. We could actually cut this animation down quite a bit because it only requires a couple of things. We could take off the feet. We could point the wings downward, things like that. And we could change it. But I think I'm just going to go in here. And I'm just going to kind of modify things a little bit here. Let's say cut this. Rotate. And one thing I'm going to need to do is number these, because otherwise I will be modifying the wrong things. So we're going to say 9. This one is 8. Oops. Come on. So 8, 7, 6, 5. And we're going to end this one at 1 o'clock Pacific time. But I just want to get this done as a part of the game. And then I commit all this stuff to GitHub. So, yeah, I should say github.com. I will post the GitHub link for everybody who is interested in doing this. Let's see if I can find. I'm sharing the source code to this game on GitHub, so feel free to tear into it. There we go. Sent that out in the chat so that you can get the source to this game on GitHub. Okay. And this one, oh, looks like, oops. It's really hard to see on stream, I'm sure, but I numbered these improperly. So I'm just going to have to do them all individually. This won't take very long, but it is kind of annoying. So these are 0 indexed. We know that. Like a lot of things, they're 0 indexed. So we need to find bird 0. That appears to be this one. And name it 0. Then we need to find bird 1. That is number 1. I'm going to put number 1 above 0, obviously. We're going to do a little sorting here. There we go. And then this appears to be bird 2. 2. We'll move that up here. Bird 3. Bird 3 was correct. Amazing. That one's different. This one's bird 4, right? Yep. Okay. Bird 4. Move this up here. This one appears to be bird 5. So we'll move 5 up here. And this one's bird 6. This one's bird 7. And this one's bird 8. Okay, now we're all back where we're supposed to be here. Don't necessarily need the grid. Now I can go back, and I wanted to modify number 2. Now we're ready to modify number 2. And all I'm going to do is rotate these wings just a little bit on number 2. So we'll go here, we'll go to edit, rotate. Should not be empty, friend. Oh, what the heck? That's number 1. Okay. Rotate, not the image, this. We're going to rotate this one, I don't know, a little bit, I guess. 15 degrees, sure. Just give a rough appearance of wings flapping, I guess. Yeah, that's not really going to work. So I'll figure out something better at a certain point. Let's just get the collision detection of this thing. We can like shorten up the feet or something so that when it's in the middle, the feet are completely gone like this. And we know this is number 4. Number 4. Feet are gone. We can at least make it retract its feet, right? Then we'll go to number 3. And we'll cut off Number 3. Cut that off. We'll move the feet up here. And this will just kind of give it the impression of it retracting its feet. Number 2. We're going to take this and move it up. Should be able to, yeah, there we go. And this will just at least make it look like it's retracting its feet. Which wings flapping is going to be a little difficult, but retracting its feet, that seems to be pretty easy. So feet completely gone. And then in here, we'll say, take those feet. Move them up to the top. Now we're just mirror imaging basically this thing here. And I lost my focus. Should be on number 5. I've got an upcoming event in 10 minutes. So yeah, I will have to end this stream here as soon as we're done doing this. This one we took these 3, and this should be number 6. And how far did we go with that one? Oh, perfect. So we'll have feet retracting, right? It's something. It's not too bad. Yep, that's 7. Perfect. Now we can save as. Quick export as PNG. We're going to save this one as the Mad Bird. There we go. And it moves around a little bit, so that Mad Bird looks kind of wild, right? But you'll notice that I left the grids in there, the grids that I was using for layouts. I forgot to shut those off. So now we're export as, we're going to go Mad Bird. Does it exist? Yes. Okay, cool. There we go. Now it's retracting its feet when it jumps. Now what happens? Do we have a collider? We don't have a collider for that one. So let's add in that collider, and then we're done. We're gonna commit this thing and find something really cool to do next week. I don't know what we're gonna do next week, but I think we're gonna add some more enemies and do some more maps. Actually, next week we'll do some more mapping. We'll make this map a little more interesting. We'll give you something to collect. So right now we have, let's see, we're going to add another collider that calls game over, this enemy, this player, this Mad Bird, this player. We're going to add some stuff to collect. We're going to change this map a little bit. And we'll probably make a way for you to fight these enemies. Ooh, game over. Oh yeah, there we go. We were successful in doing what we wanted to do today. So I wanted to add an enemy today in the hour. That ended up happening fairly fast, so we did a bunch of refactoring. So just to go over everything that we did today, we added an enemy into our game. So before, if you've played the game before, if you've been watching the stream, all you could do is move the player around and jump. Now we have an enemy that comes in, it has its own behavior, and when you touch it, you die. So we've added in 2 enemies, but we also did some major refactoring to this game. We refactored everything into a class and a scene, and we added a game over scene. So we're going to switch scenes now. So now we'll be able to do things like make levels, make a startup screen, things like that. It's really cool. So that class stuff might have been really boring watching me type this in front of everything and doing all that. However, from here on out, we can change scenes and make our games more complex. We want to add in multiple levels. We will be doing that. We want to add in all kinds of cool stuff. But I wanted to say thank you, everybody. And be sure to follow us on Twitch. We are always, always, always on Twitch. We're sometimes on LinkedIn. We're sometimes on Facebook. We're sometimes on all these different things, but we're always on Twitch. So follow us on Twitch, and you could get this cool set of stickers. All you have to do is send me a whisper on Twitch and say, please send me some stickers. I see a whole bunch of whispers right now in my inbox. So that means some folks are getting some cool laptop stickers. These are designed by David Neal, who does the stream on Thursday. So this same time Thursday, come back and watch David Neal. I'm your host on Tuesdays. David's the one on Thursdays. We're building cool JavaScript stuff. The reason you should tune back in when David does it is because he's doing a JavaScript game also. A little bit different, but something cool to check out. So thank you all for coming. I'm going to find somebody on Twitch to raid here today, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off. So thank you all for coming, like I said. And we will be back here next week doing more cool stuff, more levels, more enemies, more next week. So check us out at All Hands on Tech and follow us. Again, thank you all for coming. Definitely appreciate it.